is sin. We all know that the common definition of sin is that it is a transgression of the law. 1 John chapter 3 verse 4. So sin happens when a man transgress. Transgress is to move away from the ordered life that God has given us. So sin is the word transgression. To transgress means to move aside from the right path that God has chosen. But I want to tell you that behind the act, there is a spirit of sin. Do a little teaching. Maybe I'll finish next Sunday if I don't finish. That sin is a spirit. Behind the act of sin is sin when we transgress the law. But sin is not just a transgression of the law. When you look deeper, it is more than mere transgression of the law, because there is a spirit that makes man to transgress the law. Ephesians chapter 2 verse 1. And you had he quickened who are dead in trespasses and sins too, wherein in the time past ye walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit thou now walketh in the children of disobedience. You can see clearly that the Bible talks about what? The prince of the power of the air. And the Bible said that there is a spirit that is working inside the children of disobedience. So sin is a spirit inside the children of disobedience, and it is this spirit that makes them to act contrary to the commandments of God. It is this spirit that makes them to transgress the love of God. Romans chapter 5 verse 12. Wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed upon all men, for all have sinned. If you look at this verse, what you will realize is that there is an entity called sin, and the Bible talked about it, that what? Sin entered into the world. Sin is a spirit that entered into the world. So sin is not just doing something wrong. From this verse we can see that sin, wherever it was, entered into the world. The Bible says by the sin of Adam, when Adam yielded to sin, sin entered into the world. So there is sin in the world, as it were. Sin as a spirit is moving around in the world. You need to understand, it is a spirit. Genesis chapter 4 verse 6. And the Lord said unto Cain, why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? Next. If thou doest well, shall thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. If you look at this verse, the Bible calls sin personalized sin. The Bible said that what? He shall be his what? Desire. Only a spirit can have a desire. Only a personality can have a desire. So when sin entered the world, that was Cain and Abel. Sin was in the world, but sin was not inside them. But sin moves around as if it was what? A lion looking for an opportunity to enter into a man. And it says, sin lied at the door. Just like Jesus is standing on some people's heart, he's knocking. The Bible says he stands on the door and knock if anyone will open the door. Sin is also standing at the door of the heart and knocking if any man will enter the door. Interesting, it was Jesus who made the statement. God who first gave the idea of sin as a personality that has the ability to what? To think and desire. It was God who said it. And he was warning Cain. He said, Cain, there is sin at the door. Sin has entered the world, but sin now in the world is looking for a body, is looking for a spirit, is looking for a house to enter. Sin is a spirit. From this verse we begin to understand that when sin enters, it desires to dominate. And sin enters by what? From this story you can get something. How sin in the world can enter a man. Sin in the world can enter in a man by what? By provocation. Cain and Abel offered a sacrifice. And God accepted the sacrifice of Abel. And Cain was not happy with it. So Cain began to have what? Envy. You know envy? If someone succeeds more than you, or you are supposed to succeed more than the person, and the person succeed, many of you know this feeling. You start feeling what? Bad for the person. I want to show you a classical example of envy. A sister came to me when the card of our friend for her wedding came up, and she said, Doctor, look at me. Am I not beautiful? Am I not educated? Have I not come from a wealthy background? But see, that dog is getting married. Envy. Cain was envious, and the emotion was pulling him. And God is trying to say, the devil is taking opportunity. If you yield to it, the door will be what? Open. And the devil will take control of you. And he couldn't control his envy. And what? The devil punched the door open and entered and took control of him. Because when the devil enters, there is the difference between the devil tempting you from outside. Everyone is tempted. Everyone is tempted to feel envious. Because you are tempted to feel envious doesn't mean you are what? You are envious. I hope you know the difference. But when you begin to react, to act in the spirit of envy, and to begin to hate the person or to do something negative to the person, you have opened the door and sin enters. And when sin entered, it took possession of him, and it went and what? You must kill your brother. And he has no option. Because when sin is on the outside, it will be begging you to commit sin. But when sin is on the inside, it does not beg you, it forces you. So all of us deal with sin on the outside. It may entice you. Do it now. Just this one time. Just succumb. Just steal that money. Just sleep with that sister. Just take that little alcohol and that drug. Nobody will know. It begs you. Most man not say no, devil, I cannot do it. But when sin enter, the Bible said it shall have control. Let's look at Romans chapter 6 verse 12. Let not sin therefore reign in your mortal bodies, that you should obey it in the lust therefore. When sin enter a man has no option but to obey it. So how will a man know that sin is inside him? You know that sin is living inside of you when sin dominates you, when sin controls you. Romans chapter 7 verse 20. Now if I do that I would not, it is no more I that do it, but sin that what dwelleth where? In me. That's why you drop addicts. Who will try everything he wants to do. An alcoholic. Some of you women, if your husband is an alcoholic, you know every day will come and tell you what? I will not do it again, isn't it? Isn't it? No one But even the woman will say, this is the 10th time. But it's not only alcohol. Have you ever said you are giving your life to Christ and people will come around and say, oh, we are giving you what? 3 months. No, forget 3 months. And often than not, after 3 months, you yourself will be begging them just one bottle. Say, no, we told you. You are cheated. A man was using you sexually. Anytime he comes to your house or you go to his house, you know that he does not love you. All he is after is your body. But it keeps happening again and again and again. And after it, you even wept and cried. But you will go back to it because that I will not. It is no longer I that do it. Sin has taken dominion over you. It is a spirit, and he has entered, and he has taken charge. He has taken authority. And when it was knocking at the door, it was begging you. just this one time. Let's do it just once. You know, the way I love you, I want to feel you. I want to what? Feel you. I want us to be intimate. I want to be inside you just once. And you keep begging you. The moment you open the door, sin entered. And then you become a what? A puppet. Every time. And remember that day when you have ability to control it, but now you have lost control. Because sin is inside. It's no longer acting from the outside. Sin is always looking for an opportunity to enter. Many people are struggling with masturbation. You know, when the demon of masturbation wants to enter into you, the only thing it needs to do is to give you a pornographic material. Whether in form of a book or a film, whatever it is, once you open it and you begin to digest it, the door of your heart is open. The spirit of masturbation jumps in and takes control. And he cried and said, who shall deliver me from this body of death? Who shall deliver me? You see, once the sin entered, you cannot deliver yourself. You need a savior. The passage you read, I think it's Psalm 99. Give us the passage you read. I saw a revelation there. Psalm 119 verse 1. If you see this verse, the Bible says, blessed are the undefiled in the way who walk in the law of the Lord. That is to say, those who are defiled are those who do not walk in the law of the Lord. Why? That is to say, they are transgressors of the law. What makes them transgressors of the law is because they are defiled. What is defilement? Defilement is having a demon, a spirit inside of you. You see, the real thing about sin is not the act that you commit. What defiles you is that there is sin. It is that foul. You know the Bible calls them what? Unclean spirit. Or foul what? Spirit. And when you carry them, you are defiled. And let me tell you, holiness in the real sense is absence of the foul spirit inside you. It's not just about your action. So a man will cry, who will deliver me? Now let me say something about the manifestations of sin. Galatians chapter 5 verse 19. We have identified that sin enters into the flesh. You see, as a believer, it cannot enter your spirit, but it can enter your flesh. Galatians 5, not 1. And it begins to operate. 5:19. So come on, verse. Now the works of the flesh are manifest. We have explained in the previous passage that Paul said that I have discovered that there is nothing good in me that is in my flesh. So sin that is in the flesh can manifest. You see, if for example I have malaria parasite inside of me. You will not look at me and see what? Malaria parasite, because it is a spirit. But spirit, that means it cannot be seen with what? With the naked eyes. But it can what? Manifest. If I come around and I say, oh, look at me, I am very hot, I am shivering, I have headache, and it's in the evening, I'm covering myself. Every one of you will say, go and take what? Leonard. Because you can detect the manifestation of Plasmodium falciparum through the word, how it manifests. The Bible says sin manifest. Sin manifest. When sin is in a person, it does not just hide there. Sin does not just stay there. Sin manifests. And sin is not always manifesting. Sin only manifests when the situation what provokes it. And let me say something. Great revelation that the Lord showed to me. That sin manifests in people in different ways. The same sin. The same sin. When it enters another person, it manifests as what? Adultery. Now, all these verses, let me link them together. Adultery, fornication, uncleanliness, lasciviousness. Now, we all know adultery. We all know fornication, isn't it? Maybe we don't know uncleanness. Uncleanness is talking about things like homosexuality, masturbation, bestiality, and of course, you know, lasciviousness. Talking about shameless sexual what? Behavior. Shameless sexual behavior and indecency. If you see a sister dressed as naked, is a manifestation of sin. Do you know some women have a craving to expose something? Not the one that I used to. They have a craving for it to be tight. They have a craving for it to be short. They have a craving for some cleavages. When they dress, they ensure. When they're entering the trouser, they are struggling. When they're entering the skirt, they are jumping. Whether the weather is cold or hot, even in jobs, you will see them half naked going like this in the very cold weather, because there is a spirit that is manifesting, the spirit of lasciviousness. And they come to church to say it does not matter. It's only ignorant people who do not know the manifestations of sin. When you see sin manifesting, it's not hidden, it is in the open. You can just see it and know this is sin manifesting. Find yourself, you can't stop adultery, fornication. I want to say which one is more common. Now I don't even know. Which one is more common, fornication or adultery? Because our men now have become gurus in pursuing little girls, and they cannot control it. If the wife catches him, say, I'm sorry. But what will happen? Still continue, because the spirit has entered and is fornication. This one, some people think it's not even sin again. They say we're dating. Manifestations. The question is there sin? It's not for you to look at another person. Next verse. It's not for you to look at the person next to you and say, oh, see sin. Maybe after this teaching, you go look around and say what? See sin. My purpose in this teaching is person, isn't it? He's talking about what? Lust. Paul said, if not for the law, I wouldn't have known what it means to covet. But now I discover covetousness in me. He begin to deal with it. Lust. So even the great apostles, before his conversion, he noticed that he was plagued by lust. And he has to kick it out. Because he said, well, thanks be to God through Jesus Christ. Next verse. Okay, yeah. Idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance. Now let me talk a little about idolatry. We don't have time to look at them all. Idolatry is the worship of other gods. But let me tell you, the most basic form of idolatry is when a man worships himself. You are your God. And that was the sin of Esau. Esau is not interested in the things of God. God has given him an inheritance. But Cain came and said what? Jacob came and said, sell your inheritance. And he said, what is my inheritance? People who are lackadaisical about spiritual things are idolaters because they are worshiping themselves. Before you condemn the adulterer, before you condemn the word fornicator, because before you condemn the word homosexual, are you an idolater? Because it's the most subtle of all the sin I've discovered. He is a good person, isn't it? Very good boy. He does not steal, he does not smoke, he does not womanize. I think we said that, isn't it? But church doesn't mean anything to you. Do you have people like that in your house? It's Bible study, you rush. You just look at you, Bible study. Church. In fact, he comes to church when it is what? Convenient for him. Any God you serve, you make sacrifice for that God. If you see a person who cannot make a sacrifice for his God, you are seeing the manifestation of sin of idolatry in him. And we make this mistake. Often you see a person, a good boy in your house, and you concentrate on the ones that are what? Rugged. Because you do not understand that sin can manifest as what? Idolatry. Sin can manifest as carelessness about spiritual things. It is his own God. God has no place in his life. And many people fall under that category. And if God has not opened your eyes to understand the manifestation of sin as idolatry, you will not be preached to him. You concluded he's a good boy, but he's an idolater. Of course, we have things like emulations. Emulations mean jealousy. I'm not saying we will be tempted to jealous, but when you are tempted to jealous, do you what? Do you react violently? Jealousy. You don't want anybody to have what you have. Of course, the next time one will put them together: hatred, wrath, strife, anger, bitterness. It takes possession of you. As I am the sister working in a place of work, always reading the Bible, but having trouble with everybody on the world. She will come to the nursing station, pick a big Bible, put it on the table and read it. anything come between you and her, she will close the Bible and wash you down. So I went to her and said, sister, this thing you are doing, you are embarrassing this Bible. You are embarrassing this Bible. And she looked at me. She said, we in our generation, nobody dares us. If anybody try us, we show him our true color. Manifestation of sin. I know you can easily identify people. Even as I'm talking here, you look and say, oh, I know so person. God, please I become angry. You can keep malice. Can break plates in the house. With the spirit. Next verse. Of course, mothers envy, drunkenness. I'll mention my drunkenness. Now, Matthew chapter 1. Maybe rounding up now. Father, may your word. 1:21. And she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins. Many of you have been told that salvation is the forgiveness of sins. That is correct. But when God forgives you in your sin, when God forgives you of your sin, He does not leave you under the dominion of sin. The first thing He will do, He will come. You are struggling with masturbation, adultery, fornication, stealing, covetousness, envy, bitterness. You are struggling with them, and because of that you have transgressed the law of God, and the judgment of God is about to fall upon you. God will come and say, after you call on Him, have mercy upon me, have mercy upon me. First He will come and say, my child, I've forgiven you. And after He has forgiven you, look at the sin that is inside of you and say, what? Get out. You can no longer have dominion over me. A salvation that only forgives you and does not deliver you is not a true salvation, because Jesus said, thou shalt call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins. He shall save them from the dominion, from the power of sin. He will deliver you. And I may go to tell you, if you are still under the control and dominion of sin, I may go to tell you that you are not born again. If you are still under the dominion of sin, you are not yet born again. You have not yet been delivered, because He came that He may save His people from their sins. Let's look at 1 Timothy chapter 1 verse 5. Is it first? Second? Second Timothy. Praise the Lord. I think I missed this verse. Can you check it? Check your life. And that is why I'm telling you boldly. That if you are still under the dominion of sin, (1:15). Sorry, not 5. 1:15. First Timothy 1:15. Let me read it from here. This is a faithful saying and worthy of all acceptation, that Christ came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am chief. The primary purpose that Jesus came is to save sinners, not to make them rich, not to even heal them from their diseases. Have you been saved from the power of sin? Have you been delivered? Are you free? I know what I'm talking about. Are you still under the influence? I'm not saying whether you're tempted or not. I'm just asking. The description of sin has power over you. Can you break free from it? Will you be able to say, get out? Some of you are confused now. Say, but I was born again. First Peter chapter 2 verse 20 talks about it. Talks about dogs. It is possible for you to have been truly born again, but sin will be at the door waiting to enter again. And when the Bible says we should fight the good fight of faith, it's a fight of making sure that the door is always what? Locked. The devil is kicked out. Anytime the devil comes inside, kick him out. And remain free. Remain free. Remain free. Free from dominion. Free from bondage. And that is what it means to be holy. Not to harbor an evil spirit of sin inside your body. You are walking in victory. You can say, I was tempted. I almost gave up. But I overcame. I want to check you out. Some of you think you can make heaven with defilements of spirit inside of you. Heaven is just for people. If you have victory, but you have gone back and demons have entered again, you can cast them out. Oh Father, we thank you. How is your spiritual life? Are you living in victory?